Welcome in. This is, in fact, episode 1 of the Spence and Serg Show. I'm here with my guy, Serg. You guys watched the introduction. What a place to start in the world of college football. This is going to be all pretty much a college football show today. Really one of the busiest and craziest Saturdays and weekends I could ever remember in the sport.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. A lot of fireworks, a lot of non-fireworks, I should say. There was a lot of, leading on, a lot of misleading, a lot of misinformation being spread around everywhere. It was quite the weekend.
Were you going nuts like I was? I couldn't even go to sleep Saturday night.
Oh, I think I was texting you what do you had all the NFL things going on, Thanksgiving, you had the Black Friday debacle by my birds, and then just the epitome of the slate rivalry weekend.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for a better thing. I felt like a kid on Christmas waking up that Saturday.
Friday night, but also I think the Lane stuff even when he said he was going to LSU, it wasn't official until Sunday.
No.
And we're going to talk about Lane. Let's just talk about Kiffin. So this is what happened with Lane, Serg, is that he was essentially, the meeting kept getting pushed back with the team on Saturday. He had the meeting with the AD, and he had the meeting with the governors at the president's house on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of turned into kind of a bleep show at Ole Miss and for these players. And I guess I'll ask you, what were you, when you were monitoring this Saturday, did you think he was ever going to stay at Ole Miss?
Well, the best way that I could describe it is it's like when mom and dad have a fight and you guys have a report card you need to get signed, but you don't know whether to go to mom and you don't know whether to go to dad, and you're kind of I need to get this signed eventually, but I don't know which one is going to be able to take the news better today. And basically Lane Kiffin and there's all these reports. There's a he said, she said, and like with everything, there's 3 sides to every story. There's one side, the second side, and then there's the truth. And neither side, I think, really cares about reporting on the truth. Both of them are, like mom and dad, getting into a fight. They both want to smear each other rather than come to a conclusion. And I think that is the biggest takeaway I got from this, was that neither side really liked each other when it was all said and done.
In the end. So Lane Kiffin, okay, I guess I'll ask you the question, and then I'm going to say my piece on what I think about this Lane Kiffin.
I know where this is going.
What I want to ask you is, did Lane Kiffin, were you offended at the way that he treated the Ole Miss players in the Ole Miss community? Were you personally hurt? Do you kind of feel like Lane Kiffin did them wrong? Do you think he was selfish in this matter? And were you a little bit appalled or bothered, I guess I should say, by the actions of Lane Kiffin this week?
I'm glad you asked me that question, because as somebody that's a diehard college football junkie, I love putting myself in their shoes. What would I feel? What would they feel, etc. And I've actually contemplated this a lot before this all was even announced, because the writing was on the wall. I mean, if anybody follows college football that closely, you kind of knew this was going to happen. And if you know anything about Lane Kiffin, you kind of know he's a serial bouncer, hopper. He can't ever stay in one place for too long. So was I appalled at his decision making? I mean, when I think about it from the kids' perspective, you gave commitments to those kids. You put 6 years into a program, and you're not building a class by year. You're building from the time you get in. You're thinking 4 years out with every one of your recruits. You're starting recruiting for that senior class today, right? And they're not even freshmen yet. They're still in high school, but you're predicting who's going to start by the time they get their senior year. What are we looking at we're going to need from the transfer portal? What money they're balancing it all out. So do I think it was appalling? I guess the short answer is no, because of how much some of these young men are getting paid nowadays. But from me being an old school guy, you had a job that whole season, right? And you guys got to a good spot, sure.
Yeah.
Things didn't go your way in the Auburn, Alabama, in the Iron Bowl, but you still are in the running.
But I'm ready to say my piece now on the Lane thing.
Okay.
And you kind of proved it. You mentioned how you built a program from scratch now, and how Lane made a commitment to these kids since high school. But not a lot of them from the state of Mississippi.
No.
It's a one-year thing, and they're going to Oxford for a year. Trinidad Chambliss, he's a Ferris State guy, okay? Jackson Dart was a USC guy. So every year they're kind of getting there, and they're not like Ole Miss lifers. So I look at it, and I'm kind of sick of these journalists actually blaming Lane Kiffin and really like clutching their pearls at the entire matter. Because the guy, like, he took a job for him and his family, and I'm kind of tired at the outrage a little bit. Now, here's the problem with Lane. It was the Netflix show, and I wrote down the word Spencer Rattler. You remember the Saints quarterback? How he was on QB1 and doing the Netflix show?
Yeah.
And guess what? He was a cocky, conceited kid, and it kind of ruined him. Lane Kiffin, you know how he messed this up? He did the whole media campaign, the PR campaign, that he wasn't the same Lane, that he was a different and more mature guy, and that blew up in his face. Do you agree with that?
I completely
I think that, did you kind of see the Netflix and the remaking of his image? That he said, I'm closer to the Lord, and which I don't doubt, but he kept on saying, I'm this new guy, and I'm so happy at Ole Miss. He strung them along. When really, the way I would have handled it, I would have committed to LSU a couple of weeks ago and said, I would have leaked out, I'm really favoring LSU a couple of weeks ago, and gave almost everybody, I would have taken the drama completely out of it. Like, listen, you don't want me to coach anymore after the year? Fine, that's the college football calendar. He strung them along, and that's why it hurts so bad.
Well, yeah, but ultimately, you know, who's going to feel that hurt the most? It's going to be like that person that wants this to keep going.
The Ole Miss fans and people that kind of don't like Lane Kiffin.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people actually like Ole Miss, where, frankly, I'm not the biggest Ole Miss fan. It's not like I'm a hater, but I'm a total outsider.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not by no means a Ole Miss fan, but there's something to be said about like the hotty toddy and like their whole like culture, that
the
not just the
Grove
culture,
is awesome.
Not just the culture that he was building, but just in general, the Ole Miss running Rebels, like their whole, like down in Oxford, that whole layout that they got going on there, AD, everybody involved in their athletic program, they do a really good job of making Ole Miss a desirable place when, frankly,
it is.
Frankly, but like the state of Mississippi as in general, like if everybody wanted to go to Mississippi, we'd be seeing Mississippi State and Ole Miss running the SEC for years. But like you can name all their good players that they've had from both teams, but you can't name a memorable team like that year.
The Dak and Fletcher Cox team with Dan Mullen was sick when they were the number one team in the country.
Right.
And what Hugh Freeze did there with Metcalf, no, it wasn't Metcalf, it was Swag Kelly, it was Bo Wallace, Laquan Treadwell before he hurt his leg.
Oh, they had
back in the day, Robert Kemdike.
Mm-hmm.
So I can remember, and Eli went there, and Eli did well, but they were always kind of a stepping stone for LSU. But let me put it this way, I love the drama. And you even texted me that really funny thing about how Ole Miss now with the Ben Garrett, how they're going to call him Ho Kiffin, and right?
Dude.
Like I love that Lane Kiffin. I love the cursing at him, like as he goes on the plane. So I love the drama.
I love it.
Because I'm not an Ole Miss fan. So
I'm not either.
I love this.
I love watching them fight with each other, but also it kind of reminded me of what just happened in the NFL. Like Jerry Jones said, like how, you know, it's pretty crazy how like all year you guys are talking about Dallas, but in reality, when you look back at their scheduling of like, well, you could have got this contract done a long time ago, but you didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like everything was drawn out because he even said it, like, I get it was just a jest, but he said like, well, if I didn't have this drama, what would you all be talking about, right? He said that like during when he then did the Stephen A thing. It reminded me exactly of what's going on with Lane Kiffin.
With Lane, so the way I think Lane, by him being indecisive, it made him look terrible.
I mean, for sure, it definitely did. But
by his, guess what? I was arguing this with somebody today. If he lost some of these games and went 9-3, and the team didn't make the playoffs, ironically, they wouldn't care.
But would you even still be in the contention for the LSU job?
That is true, because he was so hot.
The biggest thing that I think about this is like we've got to clap it up for the genius that is Lane Kiffin's marketing team, because like we just talked about with Jerry Jones is, he cares more about the show than he does about winning games. If he could win games, they'd be a much more successful franchise in the past 30 years.
You're right. They would have rebuilt.
But what I love that Lane Kiffin did, and why I'm not apologetic about this at all, because Lane Kiffin, in my opinion, could not have played this much more strategically. What he did was he knew that I have all these eyes on me. What is next week, Spencer?
But I don't think he liked it. He looked uncomfortable. That's the ironic thing about Lane is he's like a really quiet, person.
He wears, honestly, it sucks because he wears his emotions on his sleeve. Like you could tell whenever he's uncomfortable and when he's not uncomfortable.
But he played this. I didn't like Lane at Ole Miss. I'll just tell you that right now because I thought that this year he was conceited.
Yeah.
And the people, because he acted like he wasn't the bad guy, and now he's embracing who he really is, which is the guy, the villain who leaves that's why I'm like this Lane Kiffin.
I am too, but I love how he positioned this because this isn't all ultimately this was a deadline week not set by Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin didn't create this. Sure, he might have had the idea by his social media team, let's drag this along, but who really set the deadline was LSU. LSU said you have until this day. If this paper isn't signed, we're going to go look elsewhere because we're not going to wait to get our guy. And frankly, LSU isn't a team that's just going to wait around for you. Now, it's unfortunate that this is happening during Ole Miss's best season in forever.
It is. I'm going to push back as well on that.
Okay.
They almost lost to Washington State. They barely beat Florida. People act like this is the national championship game when it's like a wild card team. They could have lost in the first round of the playoffs.
They could, and they
just
still
one of 12 teams. So if you're an Ole Miss fan, I get that you're a little mad at Lane, but one, he didn't really want to be a lifer there, as we can see. And he also boosted this program up crazy. So I would kind of be grateful and say, you know what? I don't really want Lane there anyway. Pete Golding is a guy who really wants to be there. Lane's his own person. It's not like they're going to love Lane Kiffin, but I think the team last year was even more talented. They had Walter Nolan, Jackson Dart.
Oh, yeah.
So
I thought that was his best
It's
chance.
not like he left immediately. It's not like they were in the semis and he bounced.
No, but by the way of not playing for an SEC championship game, there are ultimately it's a window where who knows what could happen here with the team. Will they make the college football play? Will they not? Our chances are they're probably going to make it.
They're going to make it.
Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement not to.
I think
Who cares who's coaching?
I think so too, but you're going to want to hear what we have to say later when we get talking into our college football scenarios, because I think that there's going to be something on this topic that you guys may not have ever thought of.
All right, Serge. Okay, go ahead.
To get back to this, I think that this was an inevitable, kind of almost like a cancer. You couldn't avoid this because what's next week, Spencer? What do we all know is next Wednesday?
SEC signing day.
Early signing. Early. By the way, can we stop with this early, pick a deadline and stick to it. You can't create a national signing day and then go, oh, well, we also have an early one, because ultimately what you're doing here, and what we know from talking to coaches, from hearing coaches talk, I have some friends that are in some of these programs, and I'll let you know, I will not mention any names for the sake of saving them, but I talked to a well-respected head coach.
That phone's lighting up.
I mean, it's not right now. It's not right now, but there was.
He's got eyes and ears everywhere.
I do. I definitely do. But I talked to a well-respected coach on a staff that's name's not going to be mentioned. And when I was talking to him about the importance of this early signing day, he said to me, so what? We don't get the top 5 guys. What's that matter? We're looking in the portal. They're looking for the top 10 to 15 guys in the portal.
No one does late signing day.
No one.
It's just signing day.
It's just one
and
signing day.
And it's in December, which is, so we're going to, I guess we could go into the calendar. I want to put a bow on this Lane Kiffin thing. And then we're going to go right to the calendar.
Yeah.
How would you have handled it if you're Lane? Because guess what? If you don't take LSU now, a job like that's not going to be better. You better strike while the iron's hot, or you're going to be stuck at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That's the point. And how would you have handled it if you were Lane?
Personally,
let me put it to you this way: if you wanted Lane to have the best public image in Ole Miss, and you're not just doing this to set Ole Miss on fire, how would you have handled it?
All right, so I'll give you what I would do as Coach Serg, and then I'll give you the the perfect scenario that he could have done. Perfect scenario would have been if he had not committed to anything and told everybody I will not be making a decision until my last game of the season, whether that be a bowl game, whether that be the college football playoff, whether they win a national title, right? Best case scenario would be, ultimately, hypothetically, they were to win the national title and then he goes out. And at that point, let's be honest. At that point, let's say you win the national title game and let's say LSU gets, just throwing out a BS name that probably isn't within the realm of let's say you get Keelan DeBoer. Right? Let's say you steal one from Alabama. Everybody would probably think that that'd be a no possibility, but it'd probably be one of the better coaches that you had an option at, given the no possibility scenarios. Like, you're not going to get Ryan Day from Ohio State because they're number one. You're not, like, you know what I mean? The only realistic ones are the Kirby Smarts of the world, but he's never going to leave Georgia given the grip that they have, and he played at Georgia.
Yeah.
But let's say you got this, like, hypothetical, insert name, perfect coach. Would you or would you not take a meeting with a national championship coach when you already had conversations with them about possibly going to LSU? Like, they would have kicked the curb for whoever they picked, and it would have been chaos, but they would have taken a call from Lane Kiffin. If you still wanted that LSU job after winning the national title, that's still on the table for you.
But then you would have probably stayed at Ole Miss.
Probably.
I kind of agree. I would probably just have stayed at Ole Miss if it were me.
I would have only because
I would have, but I'm kind of talking, and by the way, if I was Lane Kiffin and wanted LSU, I would have leaked several weeks ago, I'm really leaning towards LSU, and I would have had this whole media campaign that LSU's resources are a lot better than Ole Miss. And I would have had my PR say that LSU's resources, and I think they are better than Ole Miss.
Oh, way better.
That's the point, and I would say I'm leaning towards LSU.
But
and I want to coach this team. And then before the Egg Bowl, I would say I'm leaving to go to LSU. This is going to be my last game, and then I would leave. And the players would know I'm leaving.
But I mean,
and it's better than coaching in the Egg Bowl and then the players still thinking that you're staying, which a lot of people. A lot of people.
So I'm going to push back.
They showed up at his office.
Well, I'm going to push back on that because
they had a 4-hour meeting at the AD's house on Saturday, and he said he was still not making a decision, and he gave the fan base no decision.
Right, but I'm going to push back on that.
Come on, Lane, be decisive and say, you know what? I'm going to LSU. I would have said that weeks ago.
So ultimately, even the LSU thing, what was in play first was Florida. And they like Florida was super aggressive. Like, they were making it known. We want Lane Kiffin. We want a guy of this stature. So from the players' perspective, like, whether you agree or disagree, I'm going to let you know right now, those players, they're getting talked to by Lane Kiffin. There's actually a report out that Lane Kiffin gave out burner phones. You probably heard about this. So Lane Kiffin...
Not really.
Oh, you didn't hear about this? So Lane Kiffin gives out, whether they're installing stuff, everybody's got some shroud of secrecy, but Lane Kiffin gives his players burner phones. And the AD, the athletic director, that they just had their team meeting, which they kicked Kiffin out of. He wasn't allowed to be in that last meeting.
Yes.
They asked for all the phones back.
Because Lane basically is saying that this can be the phone that I talked to you about.
Yes.
To get you to go to LSU.
So what they're gonna find in those phones,
such a villain.
What they're gonna find in those phones, they're gonna find this.
Lane's a villain. He doesn't care about Ole Miss.
That's true, but I'll go one further. What they're gonna find in those phones, whether they use encryptic software to get like it back, or it's been deleted and it's in like a deleted message area, is an offer from Lane Kiffin saying, like, would you want to come with me to LSU? He already took his staff. We already know the offensive coordinator, everybody that matters.
I just wouldn't have done it.
Plane.
I think the way that it was handled.
I think it's poorly handled.
I think it was just tough because, again, I would have just tried to do this weeks ago, and then I for sure am blaming Lane for poaching, if that is true, for poaching the Ole Miss guys at this moment. I'd leave them completely alone. There's a lot more guys you can recruit.
But to push back on that, how can you do that when the only reason they're there is because of you? Like, you made it.
I would say after the year talked.
Maybe, but you walked
right
into
now
those,
focus with Pete.
Maybe, but you walked into those parents' households, told their mom and dad, your son will be at this dorm room, will be at this place, I will take care of him, he will have my personal phone number, right? Now, that same parents, we can agree to this. Those guys are not Ole Miss blue blood guys that are going to stick at Ole Miss.
They're not blue blood guys, they're Ferris State guys.
Right, but
and
those
that
parents,
is the point. And guess what? We've hit the brakes.
Yeah.
College football calendar. We'll get a lot more into this on the next segment.